It is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, focus on...
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
They're stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s.
To happen before the election because there's too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoings are going to...
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out their lies.
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out?
I started up my own electric truck manufacturing company. Gonna be taking old classic trucks from the 60s and 70s and building retrofit kits for them so you can take an old truck and make it electric. And of course, because I'm stealing Tesla's ideas, call the company Edison. Edison Motors, stealing Tesla's idea. I mean, I'm probably gonna need a lawyer on that name and slogan for the company, but that's what we're going with. I actually incorporated this company back in October, but it did take a few months to figure out exactly what we were gonna do, how we were gonna do it, and whether we could feasibly do it or not before I released it. Look, here's some of the incorporation documents. They actually gave us the name Edison Motors. Like, nobody took that. It's mine now. Site and everything. The plan here is to manufacture these trucks as electric diesel hybrids. Diesel engine powering a battery that goes to electric motors, like a freight train would use. That way you have the fuel availability with the diesel, the reliability and the torque of the electric. It's the best of both worlds and it makes total sense. Diesel electric are what locomotives run, plus the new D11 cats, and large haul trucks. It makes sense to use this system for heavy haul logging trucks and even just highway trucks. You can run your diesel engine at peak RPM for maximum efficiency, you have batteries that can regen the power you get going downhill, and you have insane amounts of torque. Why would you not do that? There's fewer moving parts, less driveline, less components. It makes sense. I mean, just look at part of the team here. We got Eric Little, a little bit of Eric on TikTok. He is an engineering genius. We got Brad, a truck driver with tons of experience in the logging industry. We got Cooper, who is a mechanical engineering guru. We got this. Plus, we got Heavy Haulin' Fool. We got Ray Mackin, who's an engineer down in Vancouver. We've got engineers all over the place. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get this truck done because I'm tired of shitty electric vehicles.
Welcome to KSOK Uncensored. Oh my gosh, I couldn't stop smiling. I just love that guy already. What a great idea. I mean, seriously. All right, let me pause real quick here. This is the Christmas special. As you can see, I'm actually wearing my little Christmas Santa sweater here in my Christmas tree room that will be turned back into my studio in 1 month. But anyways, you guys, thank you for tuning in. I know a lot of you are probably with family and friends right now, bunkering in for the holidays, but I appreciate you tuning in. I want to go ahead and bring Chace in. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How's it going? Thanks for having me on here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for coming on. I love your approach. That video just made me smile. Drew, nicely put together. But your personality is fantastic. And what you are working on right now is genius. So awesome. I'm so excited to get to know you here.
Yeah, for sure. Good to talk about it.
Oh my gosh. All right, let me just tell you. So this is week 2 in a row in Canada. So last week we had a pastor on, and I'm trying to think, he was over on one of the eastern provinces. On the East Coast. Where exactly are you at? Which province?
I'm on the West Coast, out in British Columbia.
What? Oh, nice. Okay, cool. See, I'm more familiar with the West because I do go to Vancouver. I was regularly, at least once a year. So much more familiar with that area. I'm in Portland, Oregon. So I just go 5 hours up and I'm in BC. So not too bad there.
Perfect.
But
Perfect.
yeah, hey, who's your
Oregon's a
CFL
nice
team?
place. What's that?
Do you have a CFL team? Do you root for a CFL team?
I guess it'd be the Lions. Has to be the Lions. That's the local
Right.
team.
Very cool. Very cool. Does the name Chris Jones ring a bell to you?
Chris
He's a CFL
Jones.
coach. Yeah, longtime
No,
CFL
I'll
coach.
be honest. I don't follow the CFL too much.
Okay.
I'm
All
too busy
right.
working on stuff to watch football.
You know what? I respect that so much. Actually, the NFL, I'm like, come on, nobody watched that. The CFL is not as corrupted, but good deal. I love that you're working hard. Let's just rewind and talk about when did this idea come to fruition, and what exactly? I know we saw some in the video, but can you break down for us the steps taken and what your near future is going to look like for this business?
Yeah, this idea actually came to us about a year ago. See, I got a company and we install diesel generators with battery and solar, like hybrid systems already. And we do a lot of trucking as part of the business. And like, well, we do trucking and we do diesel hybrid installs. Why don't we do a trucking hybrid? And we started playing around with the numbers as kind of like a pet project. And then, yeah, about 4 or 5 months ago, we decided, you know what? I think we can do it. I think we can go for it. So I incorporated Edison Motors.
What a great name, too. Like you said, I agree with you. It's amazing that that was even available for you to take.
Right. Turns out there's a
it
company in Korea that makes buses. So, oops. Oh, well, they sell buses in Korea, and there's a company that does scooters in Bangladesh, but I'm sure we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you're going to check out all right. That is so exciting. So you've achieved quite a bit in 5 months. And I mean, your future, Drew and I were talking, we're like, wow, his future is so bright. And what I love about what you're doing is, you know, those that really make the biggest impact are disruptors. And you are disrupting in a good way what is the status quo. And that is how we advance. And so I'd like to hear, have you received any pushback from anyone in the industry concerning what you're doing?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
But I am sure it is coming. So far, everybody really seems to be on board. And even the traditional, no, I want my diesel truck, I'll never drive an electric. And I'm like, hey, what if we can give you a Cat 3406 with like 700 horsepower in electric? They're like, oh, all right. That sounds pretty good.
Right. Exactly. I mean, they don't want to go like full, I guess it's different. For us, it's like hipster, right? All the hipsters drive the electric cars, and you don't want to go like full snowflake, but so you get that, you still have the best of both worlds, right? You have that diesel aspect, which makes you feel like you're getting hair on your chest every time you hear that engine. And then you have the electric aspect of it, which is just so smart for this day and age. So I just think it's absolutely genius what you're doing. So let's talk about, where do you go from here? Investors, etc.
Well, I put it out there, and I just left the thing open for my TikTok followers, and I'm like, hey, if you follow the videos, you can go on. And I put out one video where I'm like, hey, I'm letting some people do early investment, and we raised about little over $400,000 in 6 days when I opened up the investment.
Oh my gosh!
That was way more than we thought. So we went ahead and ordered all the parts. And the way the shipping industry is right now, about 2-3 months, we'll have all the parts for the prototype, and then about a month or two to put it all together. So end of May, beginning of June, it looks like we're on track for around there.
That is incredible. So what do you do once you have your prototype put together?
We got a few companies that want to test it out. We're going to test it, double check to make sure our engineering makes sense, and that it actually, that's one of the things that we're really worried about with it. Like, it's such a simple idea that makes sense. Like, put electric motors hooked to like a freight train or anything else. Diesel generator, batteries, electric motor. Why hasn't anybody else done it? It's such a simple system that we're really worried that nobody else has done it because our engineering sucks. That's what we're worried about, I guess.
You're waiting for the ball to drop. You're like, this is too easy. It's like a relationship where it's just like smooth sailing, and you're like, this person's like got some skeleton in their closet, like they're a freak or there's something going on there. You're like waiting for the ball to drop, and sometimes it doesn't ever drop, and it's okay. Which I hope that that is the case for you. I hope that it's just something that nobody has completely brought to fruition. Maybe it was a thought, but they never really went for it. So congratulations, because my dad alone, I hear him always talk about, oh, we should, I thought of that, and then the next month I saw it, and I'm like, well, why didn't you do something? Like, everyone has an idea, but not very many people actually bring it forward. So one, I applaud you for doing that, because that's like such a crucial step that so many people don't have necessarily the courage to do. So that is awesome. I have this feeling that it's gonna just work out for you guys. That's really cool. I mean, it does make sense.
Right.
And the cost savings, the timing on that with the fuel prices, oh my gosh, it couldn't be better timed. So no wonder you raised such interest in such a very short amount of time.
Well, I think it really makes sense. And yeah, in terms of fuel savings, the fuel savings with that on a logging truck in BC are huge because you have the regenerative braking. The environmental impact, you don't need big, massive lithium ion batteries. And a diesel engine running at a constant RPM is the most environmentally efficient way and fuel efficient way to run a diesel engine. It's better for the environment. It's more reliable. It's more efficient. It's just a way that makes sense. The weight's a little bit more. I'll
Right.
give it that. It's going to add about 2,000, 2,500 pounds onto the weight of the vehicle, but that's not very much if you're hauling logs off highway.
Right, seriously. And if the infrastructure, luckily in North America, I think it can withhold. It'll be just fine. Now, if you're in the roads of India, then I'd be a little concerned. Fall off the side of one of those cliffs or something. But no,
That's actually
that
one
is,
of the other reasons. Sorry, got mixed up.
go ahead.
Oh, I said the infrastructure in North America is one of the reasons why I think this makes more sense. Because the biggest thing that people don't realize with like the Tesla semis and all these electric trucks is that North America's power infrastructure, we haven't invested in our infrastructure properly in the last 20, 30 years. Our electrical
Right.
grid can't take all the semi trucks going electric. When they plug in at night, it will literally just crash the grid. By having a diesel on the truck, you don't have to worry about that.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're solving so many problems. Like, seriously, you're so right. Infrastructure, though we don't have third world infrastructure, it has not been a priority. That is for sure, at least here in the States, and sounds like in Canada as well. So yeah, it's really, I'm just in awe of what you're doing, because it's really incredible. So all right, let's talk about how are things in Canada. Okay, one, let me just say, do you have as much snow as what's pictured in the pictures in your intro? Because I am so jealous.
We have way more. we
God.
got about a quarter of a meter of snow last night alone.
Oh my
250 millimeters.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, so like I'm in
Feet.
Portland, Oregon, and I've lived here. I'm 40, so I moved away to New York City for a few years, but so out of 38 years in Portland, I've gotten snow 3 times on Christmas, and so we are supposed to get this mega storm, and I am so excited. So I'm one of those sickos that loves snow, but I guess if I was up where you're at, I wouldn't be that excited about it. I'd probably get irritated with it at some point.
Well, I mean,
But
I think I'm a 6-hour drive away from Portland, Oregon. 6 hours at most, 7 hours. So I'm not that far away. But
yeah,
it's like Washington when you go up Snoqualmie Pass there. It's just, we're just right on the top of the hill where it gets hammered.
I have to make fun of you. Are you talking about Snoqualmie?
Yeah, whatever
Or
you
is
want to call it. Snoqualmie,
I'm like,
Snoqualmie.
is there
There's a
something
snowy
else?
highway. They named the highway after snow, and that's as far as I got.
Oh, I love it. My aunt lives up in Blaine, and so which is like literally, you're probably familiar with where Blaine is. I mean, it's like pretty much I could like
Oh,
almost
yeah.
swim to Canada. So so we're up there often enough, and it's just gorgeous. But Birch Bay and all that area. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're pretty close then. I love that. So I asked my Canadian last week. I have to ask you. When what's the buzz around your area when the United States is brought up?
Geez, I don't.
Just give it to me.
For lack of a better word, when the U.S. is brought up, is like Canada's a really nice apartment over top of like a bowling alley. Like there's just so much noise and chaos going down there, and it's like, it's
Yeah.
honestly, I know I'm on a right wing podcast right now, or right wing show, but
Yeah.
I don't see the difference between the left and the right wing in the U.S. It's the same. The Democrats and the Republicans at the top level are the same political party. It seems like it's the
Right.
same thing. It's just they're all corporate backed.
Right. No, you're so right. I mean, we're fishing them out. We call the right wingers that aren't truly conservative in values. We call them rhinos, Republican in name only. So we're sniffing out the rhinos as a country right now. So, but you're right. I mean, there's corruption on both sides, for sure. I know. I think our guest
It
last
seems that.
week said that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. I think we got a little delay on
So
the audio.
our guest last week said like people in his area see the United States as like the bully on the world stage. Is that something that you also pick up from chatter around you?
No, I don't think they're really the bully on the world stage. I don't think as many people take America seriously anymore outside of America. Like you go to Europe
Yeah.
and they seem to have the same opinion on America. It's like, oh yeah, that's that country that nobody kind of like. They're past their prime. I hate to say it,
Yeah.
but the way America's gone, it's going downhill. It's the Republicans and Democrats are the same people, and there doesn't seem to be a political party anymore that's out for the working American. That's the one thing we're noticed is that the wealth inequality is growing bigger and bigger. People still don't have health care. It's just one of those ones where it's how is it that they're shipping every single job overseas, they're making record profits at all these mega trillion-dollar multi-billion-dollar corporations, and the people working for those companies aren't seeing raises. Like look at John Deere.
Right.
John Deere made about $20 billion in profit, didn't want to give the employees a 50-cent raise this year.
Yeah.
Didn't even
Greedy.
keep track with
Absolutely.
inflation.
Right. Right. No, I agree with you. There's definitely, I mean, naturally, I'm conservative in values, but that doesn't mean that I'm just blindly voting for anyone that wants the elephant. So there is corruption and interest, on both sides. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like it's when I say give it to me straight, you sure did, and I appreciate that because it's really important. As Americans, know that we are weak right now, and we know that we are easily taken advantage of as a country right now, and so it's just really interesting to be able to obtain just perspective from someone that isn't in the States. So I
My
love.
biggest
Go
perspective, I
ahead.
think I've noticed when talking to any American, talked to a lot of people on the left, I've talked to a lot of people on the right, and people that are out there working for a living, whether they're Democrat, Republican, what may they be, they're about the same. Real Americans are all about the same. They all want the same things, and they're about the same as whether you're talking to a hardworking Canadian person. It's everyone wants the best for their families. They all want to look after it, and we all want a chance to make a better life for ourselves. I
Right,
just
right.
don't see that as a realistic possibility in the US as much anymore. I find that it's stacked.
We are very divided right now as a country, and I don't see us healing for some time. We're all very eagerly awaiting the 2022 elections, so we'll see if there's going to be a shift there. But yeah,
I don't think it'll make a difference.
it's a sad time. If we don't have voter reform in place, it won't.
No.
Not going to go anywhere,
And
but
I hate
that's
to
a big
say it,
deal.
but weird to have a two-party system when both parties are brought off by corporate lobbyists. You got guys running the country in the U.S. They're 75, 80 years old. That doesn't make any sense to me as a Canadian, because I know for a fact that, like, if you're working for the federal government, they have a mandated retirement age. You're working as a park ranger in a provincial park, they say, sorry, you got to retire. You're 65 years old. You don't know what's going on in a park. That's too old to work. But you can lead the fucking country? I'm sorry, if you can be 75, retire as a park ranger, wait 10 years. Like, there's people in the U.S. Senate that are like 80 years old. My grandpa's 80. I wouldn't trust him to drive a car, let alone run the country. Fuck.
Oh my gosh. No, you're so right. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. And you know, I just think of like, I look at like Nancy Pelosi and Biden, like, man, they're like dribbling out their, you know, they can't even keep their saliva in their mouths anymore. And it's really crazy. That needs a change. That is for sure.
I hate to say it, even Trump at the end of it, where it's like, he's 75, let him retire and golf. Like, you could tell at the end, the stress of being the president was getting to that guy. Like, I don't think anybody over 65, 70, like, say what you want about Obama, but at least he was young enough to have it together cognitively. Fuck.
Oh, and I don't know. See, I think Trump still, he was all with it, and man, that man could work circles around a lot of 30-year-olds, in my opinion. But I know what you're saying with the age piece. I have to ask you though. Now I have to touch on Trudeau. Are you a Trudeau fan?
No, I'm not a big Trudeau fan. I think he got the job because his dad had the job. That's a bit of nepotism, so I don't really like it.
Yeah, seriously. You know, what when I was in the office, I haven't worked in the office for almost 2 years, but there were so many people that have Trudeau calendars hanging in their offices, and they're like, we just love him and his socks. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. Like, you know, he was just known for his socks, how he always had cool socks.
His hair is so beautiful.
Oh my gosh, seriously. Yeah, I like his hair. I mean, it's just crazy. So it's just people are so focused on the wrong things. But yeah, I remember that irritating the crap out of me. That area, though, in the office was the same area where we had decorated ours for Christmas. And clearly that irritated them. So they went and decorated their whole space for Kwanzaa. So I was like, oh, okay, they're trying to send a message here. So hang your Trudeau calendars, decorate it for Kwanzaa out of spite. I mean, that's fine. We don't have to agree. But it's just funny. It's that mentality where guy's hair and you like the guy's socks. Same thing with like Gavin Newsom, California. People like, oh, he's so handsome. So that's why you're going to vote for him, because you think he has good hair. He has a spray tan all the time.
I've always wondered if there should be a test before voting. And I know that sounds wrong, but it's something I've always postulated in theory, that you should have to know what the candidates' policies are, what their general ideas are, and pass a basic understanding of the political differences. Like,
yes.
These whole thing is of like, let's get out the vote. Let's get everybody out to vote. Be like, I don't want people voting if you're just voting for somebody because he has really nice hair.
Oh, seriously? Okay, so you've probably seen like Jesse Waters or just people that go around and they're like literally showing pictures of Kamala Harris. Who is this? And first they ask who they voted for, right? So they're like, we voted Biden. And so they hold up a picture of Kamala Harris. They don't even know who it is. And so clearly they're just voting down the party line. And you're spot on. I mean, seriously, half these people have no clue what they're voting for. And I mean, and that could be on both sides too. I mean, both sides are guilty of that. Naturally, I'm a little biased, but the whole thing is like, you know, we're giving people that aren't even paying taxes the ability to vote for who our next president is. And that's the sad truth of what's happening in the United States right now. You can literally be 6 feet under and you're voting somehow. So I'm all about a test. I mean, shoot, that would be incredible. And I also think it should be raised. The voting age should be at least 21, because I just know myself when I was 18. Come on. You know what I mean? I'm
Well,
like, I was not.
I think if you
I
had a
wasn't ready to.
competency test, well, as long as you had a
Yeah,
competency test, make the voting age
that's
whenever
true.
you can pass the competency test. If you're
That's a good
16 and
point.
you're incredibly politically informed, I trust your opinion more than somebody that's 45 and had never looked at anything.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. No, that's a really good point. I mean, if you could qualify at 16, I'm completely with you. I like Kim said, Gavin Newsom is a douche. Yes, he is. I mistakenly said douchebag in front of my kids today, and my son said, "So what's a douchebag?" And I'm like, "Ooh," I'm like, "It's an idiot."
Yeah,
We'll
that's
just
fair.
go
That's
with
fair.
that. Yeah, that works, right?
Yeah.
But
What you
yeah,
mentioned
no,
about people voting down party lines, that's what I think the biggest issue with American politics are.
yeah,
Americans tend to treat their politics like a sports team. They root for their
right.
party like they're rooting for their favorite sports team. And a lot of the people's reasons are, I'm voting for this party because my dad voted for this party. My grandpa supports this party, and we're this team party. That's why we're voting Democrat. That's why we're voting Republican. You're like, what does the party stand for? And they're like, I don't know. But that's what this household is. Like,
Yep,
what?
yep. You're absolutely right. So I see that on both sides for sure. And it is rare when I have somebody on that's involved in politics, I always ask them about their family's voting history because it's so rare. It does happen, but it's very rare to be raised in a family that votes one way and then to come out the opposite. Unless you've gone to like a liberal indoctrination college type of situation, which happens all the time here. But it is very rare for somebody to make their own decision versus going along with what their family has been doing for generations. So, yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And actually, it's funny you say it because politics that is my sport because I don't follow any sports. So that is funny that you say that. But you're
I
pretty spot on,
wonder
I
as an
must say.
American, I gotta ask a question. As American, what do you think of the Canadian system for like political campaigning? Up here, you're only allowed to campaign like about a month and a half before an election. That's it. That's all the political parties are allowed to do. You, in America, it seems like within like a year and a half, 2 years out of an election, everyone's campaigning again, and that seems like it's really driving
Yeah.
that sports team mentality.
Yeah, it is exhausting because you feel like we finally, like when Trump was elected and we could breathe again, those of us who were big fans, and then 2 years later, you're like, oh, feeling it again. But it's really interesting. You know, the first thing that came to mind was that candidates in Canada likely have to raise a lot less money because you're not spending a year and a half campaigning. You're spending what'd you say, 2 months, 1 month?
Well, they don't have to raise any money in Canada. There's no money being raised. You can donate and they can raise a little bit, but elections are
Yeah.
funded by the federal government. If you get so many
Oh,
votes, that's your funding that you get towards the next party. Or like if you have the seats, you're allowed to fund it. And yeah, so the government funds it because they don't want it to be a ton of corporate sponsors coming in there trying to fund the election. So the government just says, you know what? Yeah, we're having government elections. We're going to fund the political parties. This is how it's going to work. You have a month and a half to campaign. You can plan all your campaigns before, but as far as the public ads
yeah.
go, all that, we only want to see it for about a month and a half. It limits the budgets
You know
and it
what?
keeps it reasonable.
Yeah, I will say, I thought you were going to go like the healthcare route. I don't agree with like Canadian healthcare system, but the that voting system that actually makes a lot of sense to me because like the first thing that comes to mind if I was ever to run for anything is how exhausting is that to go have to raise all this money? Whose ass do I have to kiss? You know what I mean? That
Mm.
type of thing. It's like I really respect the fact that that is kept out of it. So that sounds refreshing to say the least.
Yeah, and if you wanted to run, you don't need to be super rich with large money bags. The government's going to fund your
Yeah,
election campaign. As long as you're
that's
saying
pretty,
what people believe in and you have the support of the
yeah,
people, the government's going to fund it. You don't need to be wealthy. And I think that's a big difference in Canadian versus US politicians. A lot
yeah,
of US politicians
yeah,
are really rich.
yes. No, you're so right. I would love that. It's very refreshing. It's one of those things where, you know, we have a saying, like earlier I said, you're watching us make the sausage backstage, right? Sausage and laws. You don't want to see what goes into making passing a law or making sausage. It's about equally nasty. So that sounds very refreshing. And actually, I'm quite interested to look into that a little further because I was not aware of the federal backing versus having to
Yeah.
raise your own money. That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right, Drew,
We
I
do a
have
few
a few
things
minutes
right.
left here. Yeah, hey, I do. I am liking that. Oh, I'd love to have you back on here because we could discuss socialism. But anyways, you might
Oh,
not
I
want
love
to.
to get into that.
Uh, wh- oh goodness, we have 2 minutes. All right, where can people find you? I know you have a TikTok account. What's your handle?
Chace Barber. It's just my name.
Easy. Okay,
When I made
cool. And
TikTok, I
then
didn't realize everyone was making cool handles like Heavy Haul and Fool and all these cool things. And I thought it was like Facebook where you just make your name. So my TikTok handle's just my name.
Hey, you know what? At least people can find you relatively easily for sure. I think that's awesome. Okay. What about your website? What is your new company's website so we can check it out?
Yeah, it's edisonmotors.ca.
Okay, love it. My gosh, I'm so excited. I love that I was able to get you on. Actually, obviously, I didn't do the work to get you on, Drew. Thank you. But thank you for coming on. And I will be following you and seeing. I'll go find you on TikTok. I haven't been on there in a
Oh,
while, but
please.
I'll go find you because I really want to follow your story. And I cannot wait to see future holds for you. And then, gosh, is there anything else that you would like to, any words of encouragement for the United States?
For the United States in general, good luck. But other than that, for individual people, I think more people should just go for it. There's a lot of people, we hemmed and hawed for a year on this idea. We're like, are people going to work? Is it going to like it? Or as soon as we put out the idea, people loved it. The support,
Love.
$400,000 in 6 days. And we sat on it debating for a year. So I just say if there's
Ah,
someone that wants to go out there, do their own business, follow their dream, just go for it. You don't know what's going to happen until you try.
I love that. I love that. Oh, that's so great. You're speaking to me because I was thinking about going out on my own and doing some stuff. So get out of corporate America a little bit. So we'll see. Thank you so much for coming on, and you have a
Thanks for
wonderful
having me.
evening and drive safe in all that snow.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy
Merry
Kwanzaa to
Christmas.
the other office workers.
Yes. Chris Mahana Kwanzaa. You got it. All right. You have a great night. Thank you so much, Chase. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please do not forget to check out My Pillow. It's too late to get those Christmas presents in, but not too late for everything else. We have our own code RAM. It's up to a 60% discount when used at checkout. And please stay tuned for the shows following me. We have Blue Family Unity and The Loaded Mic. Merry Christmas, you guys, and I will see you next Thursday.
Well, hello, friends. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's get right into it. If you're part of the law enforcement family, this is your show. Here we talk about all things Leo family life, the good, the bad, the funny and the sad, and everything in between. All right, guys, let's get right into one of the big headlines that's been a topic of conversation for a little while now, the Jussie Smollett case, also known as Juicy, apparently. I don't know, maybe that's the right way to say his name. I don't really know. I actually don't really care. But I do care about this case, and I'm going to tell you why in my little Pardon My Preach rant. I'll tell you why I care so much and why you should too. But first, I want to talk about something that I found really interesting. And here's the headline from the Daily Wire. It says the chief who arrested Smollett says sandwich tipped off authorities. Maybe would have let off with apology. Interesting. So yeah, you heard that right. A sandwich is what tipped off authorities. So I'll read a little bit to you. It says the Chicago, blah, blah, blah. the Chicago police chief who arrested actor Jussie Smollett back in 2019, said authorities were tipped off that the hate crime, those are in quotes, was not what it seemed by the actor's untouched Subway sandwich. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know what you know or what you remember of this case or what you heard, but, you know, the gist of it is that he just had a hankering for a Subway sandwich around 2 a.m. and decided to take a little stroll in the freezing cold temperatures to go get himself a Subway. And then he was attacked by two MAGA hat-wearing Caucasian men who were actually two very huge Nigerian men. But, you know, same, right? Same. Yeah. No. Okay. So yeah, so that was his story, and he was sticking to it. But it says the former chief also noted that Smollett might not have been criminally charged if he had come forward with an apology and abandoned his claims of victimhood, which he did not do. In fact, he actually doubled down and got the support of lots and lots of liberals behind him, which was really, really great in the long run, wasn't it? Let's see. He says that he, being the chief, says, looking back on it, the part about the noose, but what really struck us oddly, because at the time I'd been a cop for 31 years, and so I had been in the detective division working on homicides a lot. What really struck us was the fact that he got attacked on the coldest night of the year during a polar vortex. It was insanely cold, so nobody was out. Let's see what else. But I tell you one thing that really tipped us off that there was a problem, he continued. If somebody gets jumped like that, he says, so let me back up a bit. He went to a Subway sandwich shop like at 2 a.m. to get, well, we already know this. And that's fine. He comes back. Now, this is the chief talking here. He comes back, gets attacked in a hate crime, supposed hate crime. And during all this scuffle, they poured bleach on him and all of this. When he got up and went into his apartment building, he still had the Subway sandwich. That doesn't happen. And I'm going to agree with the chief. I don't even think I need a background in policing, or I don't think I need to even be a detective for that, because I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of a scuffle I've ever been into. I've never really been in a real scuffle, but I've fought, and I do kickboxing. I do the things, and I'm feeling like if I'm about to do some kickboxing and I have my cup of water, whatever. Not that I would have a cup of water, but whatever. Just roll with it. Just go with me here. But you know, if I have something in my hand, there's a high likelihood that I would put it down or drop it if I were being attacked. But I wouldn't hold on to it the whole time. And we're talking about this particular case where, let's play along and say, two men approach you and they are telling you that they're going to beat you up, in so many words, and they apparently have a noose and some bleach on hand. It's very convenient that they would have those things. And they're going to do all these things. And again, we're going to pretend that this is a Subway sandwich because I don't have a Subway sandwich. What are we going to do here? How is this going to happen? Stop. No, wait, but I've got my sandwich. Please don't hurt me. Okay, go ahead, beat me up, but I'm just going to hang on to my sandwich. You know, or what? I don't know. Did he set it down? Did he say, guys, can you hold on a minute? I just need to set down my Subway sandwich because after you beat me up, I know I'm going to be really hungry. Yeah, plausibility. Yeah, not feeling it. I will also say, I couldn't be a detective. I couldn't be a police officer because I'm actually not that observant. A lot of things get past me, and I'm not, well, of course, I'm embarrassed to admit that, but it's just a fact. But anyhow, I am not the subject of this story right now, so it doesn't matter. Oh, so anyhow, so yeah, so the Subway sandwich was what really clued them in that something was definitely not right with this story. And bravo for them for that, for noticing that, because I only noticed that, or I would only consider that after the fact, you know, after somebody told me, like, gee, don't you think it's weird that he just got attacked and bleach thrown on him and a noose put around his neck, and he still had his sandwich like perfectly intact, nothing wrong with it? Yeah, that sounds weird to me. But yeah, so there's a, and of course there's plenty of other things. The fact that he went home first to his apartment and I don't know what he did. Maybe he ate his Subway sandwich. I don't really know. He was probably very hungry at that point. And then went to the police and still with the noose around his neck. So he showed up later at the, like at no point he thought, let me get this thing off of me. Like I'm thinking, again, never been in this situation. But I would think that I would want the offensive item off of me. I would save it to give or show to the police so that maybe they could get fingerprints off it. I don't know, but I don't feel like I would keep it on. Would you? I'm gonna guess no. I think we're all on the same page with that. So anyhow, yeah. So Jussie Smollett, big liar, pants on fire. Lots of fabulous, hilarious memes going around about that.
Well, there isn't much more I can say about the Jussie Smollett case than what's already been said, so I'm just gonna share some of my favorite memes about it. Here you go.
And they are very, very funny, and I really like them. But now this is going to lead me right into Pardon My Preach. So let's do the cute little jingle for that, okay?
It's time for Pardon My Preach.
Okay, so listen, pardon my preach, but I laugh at the memes. I think they're funny. I think it's funny that they're at Jussie Smollett's expense because he deserves to be made fun of mercilessly at this point. This is not a case where he had like some kind of mental illness or mental breakdown that made him do something so abhorrent and offensive and wrong, morally wrong, wrong in every regard. So there's no mental incapacity that we're aware of, certainly, that made him do this. He did it because he's a piece of shit and he wanted attention. And he didn't care about the consequences of that it would further a racial divide, that in my opinion, you can argue with me, not right now because, I've got the floor, but you're welcome to comment and tell me I'm wrong. But a large part of this racial divide is fueled by the media and the liberal politicians. I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn here. I think I'm stating the obvious. So nonetheless, and of course they all backed him up. But here's the thing. As much as we are making fun of him, rightly so, we should also be furious. We should be extremely angry at Jussie Smollett and anyone like him. What you did, Jussie, Juicy, I can't stand that word, so I'm not using it. I know I just did. What you did there, buddy, is you played a game where you made actual victims. People were genuine victims of hate crimes, of violence, of anything terrible like this. You made us, or you put us in a position where now we question genuine victims. We question everyone. And that's because of people like Jussie Smollett, who lie for their own personal gain. And again, how well did that work out for you, bud? Yes, I know that when I hear that somebody has been victimized in a hate crime, or really, geez, it's terrible to say, but victimized in any way, I have to be perfectly honest with you. My first response is, well, we'll see till all the facts are out. I'll believe it when we have some proof of it. And my goodness, isn't that horrible for genuine victims to have to prove their actual victimhood? Why do they have to do that? Because of people like Jussie Smollett. And he's not the only one. There's been many, many cases of people, hate crime hoaxes, rape allegations that were untrue. They were just spite reportings and trying to destroy people's lives for no other reason than it benefited them in some way. So because of those people, because of the Jussie Smolletts in the world, we cannot just believe victims. And that is horrifying. That's terrible. And so we should be angry about that. I'm angry about it because it puts us in a cynical mindset. And like we need any help being in a cynical mindset these days. I actually do not know at the time of this recording, because this is recorded, we're not live. I'm sorry. At the time of this recording, I don't know what his sentencing is. So I don't know what happens. Does he get some community service? Does he get a little slap on the wrist? Does he actually get any jail time? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Should an example be made of him? Hell yes, in my opinion. An example should be made of him. Throw him in jail for as long as possibly legally can for this, because it'll send a clear message that this type of bullshit will not be tolerated. So I don't know, and maybe that will help genuine, actual, real victims of hate crimes and of violence, because they are the ones that do need to be protected, and this maybe is one way of doing that. So yeah, so pardon my preach, but that's what I'm pissed off about today. Let's move on to some more headlines. To what's not in the news today. Sorry, you caught me taking a sip of my water from my Blue Family Unity mug. Oh, what? You love my Blue Family Unity mug? Why, of course you can get one. You can very easily get one for yourself and help support the show, and that would be greatly appreciated. You just head on over to my link in my comments section here, and you can pick up a mug or a t-shirt or what else do I have? I don't know, I got a bunch of stuff on there, but lots of fun things, and everything that you purchase will support the show, and it's very much appreciated. So how is that for a subtle plug, huh? All right, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I don't. So let's talk about what's not in the news today. My favorite topic, of course, is, well, I have a few favorite topics. My favorite topic is obviously anything law enforcement family related. But I also like to talk about what the mainstream media, the corporate media, the legacy media, they got a lot of nicknames, but it all means the same thing, that they are the corrupt mainstream media. That's what I like to call them, the corrupt mainstream media, because that's what they are. They are biased, and they will omit information that doesn't suit them or their financial backers, is really what we're talking about here. But one of the stories that they have, of course, ignored has to do with law enforcement. And it's some pretty, it's not pretty upsetting. It's very upsetting information. Police shooting deaths break a record high in 2021, and the year's not over. In another historic Biden first, the number of police shot and killed in the line of duty level reached record-breaking levels in 2021. According to the 2021 tally from the Fraternal Order of Police as of midnight on November 30th, and here's the numbers, here's the stats. 314 police officers were shot in the line of duty. 58 of those officers died from their wounds. That is a 16% increase from 2019. Let's see, shooters ambushed police 95 times, and that is a 126% increase from 2020. 119 police officers were ambushed by gunfire, and 28 of them died. Patrick Yose, who is the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, said that we've already had more officers killed in the line of duty by gunfire this year than any other, and there's still 1 month left. So that was as of November 30th at midnight. That was that number, and I know for a fact that we've already had more since then. So yeah, so there is an epidemic. We want to talk about epidemics. You know, they like to say there's an epidemic of police brutality, an epidemic of police shootings. Well, guess what? You're right. There is an epidemic of police shootings, but it's the police who are being shot. And that's not acceptable. And what's also not acceptable is that the mainstream corporate corrupt media is not telling you about it, is not talking about it. Why? Well, I mean, the biggest reason is they don't care. They don't care. Unless you are a career criminal, a convicted felon, a murderer and a rapist, you're useless to them. They can't make a martyr out of you because you're one of the good guys. And, you know, good guys bad, bad guys good. That's the world we live in right now. At least that's the world they want you to believe we live in. Reality is a different story. I think our day-to-day lives tell a different story, but the mainstream media is what fuels the hatred and fuels the violence and the disinformation and misinformation. And we have to fight that. We have to fight against that every single day. And I hope that you join me and all of the others who are in this fight.
Crime is exploding across America. Defunding the police is causing even more chaos and increased crime in communities we live, work, and raise our families. We need your support to refund the police. Your donations will go toward the development of a national media advertising blitz to rally Americans who are sick and tired of the attacks on law enforcement. So donate today and help refund the police.
So yes, that was a very short, brief headlines. Pardon my preach, and not in the news today. We threw them all together very, very quickly. It was like one of each, basically. Hey, family, if you're looking for the perfect gift for the reader in your life, why not check out one of my books? They're all available on Amazon and most major online book retailers, as well as elsakurt.com. Whoa, hey there. So fun fact, we were supposed to have a guest at the end of that episode. However, they had to cancel at the very last minute. So instead, I'm going to show you my 1 million views video. Yep, I woke up this morning to find out one of my TikTok videos has 1 million views. Crazy, totally crazy. But here it is, and I'd love to know what you think of it.
Just plug it in.
You can go ahead and plug in and...
Okay. Just plug it in.
That's it? Yeah.
You plug it in.
There we are.
And you can let go.
That's it.
And there's no sound or fume.
There is nothing.
Yeah.
Why is this complicated? What is happening?
Yeah, and that's
Well,
all there
for
is
all of
to
us
it.
who are used to,
Every morning
filling our tank, you usually can smell it and you can hear it. You can hear the guzzling.
No, you're not going to hear her. Fucking shit.
How do I know it's actually working?
That's our vice president. Yeah.
Tell me how I would know that.
You don't have to hold it.
None of
So how do I know it's actually working?
Don't do the cackle.
It is.
Now, of course, I find myself absolutely hilarious, and it's pretty nice to find out that a few other people thought so too. So that's kind of fun. All right, so here's the official sign off, guys. Have a wonderful holiday. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. I hope it is a happy, peaceful, safe holiday. Here's a little more silliness for you.
Today's guest, Bill Gates. Bill, thanks for coming on the show.
Great to talk to you.
Let's talk about you and your relationship with Dr. Fauci.
Nobody would have predicted that I and Dr. Fauci would be so prominent in, really kind of evil.
Given both of your histories, it's probably not that surprising.
Did we create the pandemic? Are we trying to profit from it?
Since you brought it up, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what everyone thinks.
I'm very surprised by that.
Are you, though? Really?
I hope it goes away.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
What would you say has been your most effective way of spreading your propaganda?
Working with the social media companies.
Okay, take a guess at how many people are completely creeped out by you.
Everyone.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised by that.
Well, I mean, people find your obsession with depopulation rather concerning. I've said it several times, look.
The benefits there in terms of reducing sickness, reducing the population growth. The population growth in the country goes down. And yet the reduction in sickness and population growth that comes with that, that is sort of front of mind.
Your maniacal obsession with global vaccinations, what are you going to do if there's no more pandemic?
There will be another pandemic.
You seem like a pretty evil son of a bitch. You do know that, right? So, opinion, of course, but it seems like you worked pretty hard to get some previous pandemics off the ground. This one, pretty impressive. What were your thoughts on that?
So, this time, I think people will pay attention.
Let's talk about your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners.
Dinners. Yeah, so anyhow, well, what would you say to anyone that wants to question you any further about that?
Well, he's dead, so, in general, you always have to be careful.
And there you have it. Kamala, over here. Hey, so a quick question about that old tweet of yours. It's a good one.
Which tweet? What tweet?
You know, the one you're all like, Jussie Smollett, he's so sweet, he's like the kindest guy. This is like a modern day lynching. That one. Ooh, nobody's coming to save you. Sorry.
Sorry.
No worries. So, about that tweet.
Okay, so I will say this about that case. I think that the facts are still unfolding.
All the facts are out, but wouldn't it have been great logic to have used before you tweeted? Oof, painful. Oh, okay, I guess we're done. Well, thank you for the valuable life lesson in keeping my mouth shut until I know all the facts about something. Great job, bye! If you're part of the law enforcement family, this is your show. Here we talk about all things Leo family life. The good, the bad, the funny and the sad, and everything in between.
Americans rising up, conflicting liberal policies, Jussie Smollett, and our very special guest and Second Amendment advocate, Rob Morse. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Was. There were over 187,000 NICS background checks on Black Friday alone, second only to the number of background checks in the prior year, 2020, which was the most politically violent year we've seen. Now, 2021 has proven to be the year American citizens have decided to arm themselves, thanks to a number of things the Democrat Party has achieved, such as their defunding the police movement, bail reform, portraying criminals as victims of society, supporting violent left-wing terror groups like BLM and Antifa, and a general disdain toward law and order. What kind of message does that send to law-abiding citizens who want to raise their children in a safe environment? Well, their actions have produced results, but not necessarily the results they were hoping for. The problem with the political left is that they do not understand human nature and how people react when they're put in danger. Democrats have put the entire country in harm's way with their dangerous policies, and the people have spoken. How have they spoken? And how have they responded? Well, they're lining up at the gun shop because they realize that because of the dangerous policies being put in place, good people are being put face to face with criminals. What did they think would happen by defunding the police and demonizing the good people who want to keep society safe? What did they think would happen if you report a criminal and the legal system implements no bail, putting the criminals back on the streets? What did they think would happen when they support and encourage violent left-wing anarchists and let them burn down cities, destroying the dreams of hardworking Americans? Did they think that people would support these violent groups as they were terrorizing neighborhoods? We saw what happened in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. A 17-year-old decided that once government puts people in danger, good people need to stand up and help others. He did, and he defended himself against a violent terrorist, resulting in a court case that ended up vindicating the act of self-defense. Exactly the opposite of what Democrats were hoping for, as they relentlessly tried to demonize the hero and defend the terrorists and pedophiles. The result of this government-perpetuated violence is American citizens coming to the realization that the government is doing nothing to protect them and everything to make them unsafe. The good news is the left-wing ideology is eating itself alive. The Biden administration and Democrats in Congress don't understand what people really want. The political left is pushing people toward the Second Amendment as a result. Americans can't be pushed around like citizens of other countries because we're different. We're a country built on patriotism. We're a country that was built by patriots who were willing to die for their freedom, and we told the king to kiss our ass. That's the spirit. That spirit is inherent, and it's in our blood. We recognize that when bad people put us in danger with their policies, it's our job and responsibility to protect ourselves and fellow citizens while reminding those government employees who they work for. Now, we're seeing the rising up of the American citizen, and it scares the hell out of the political left. We're going to talk about that today with John Chiara and Anthony Diso. So what do you guys think? Is America rising up against the
absolutely
radical left wing?
I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
From people that are not on social media or who aren't public about it, but in private. I'm sure you have. I have. Every day I have conversations with people that are just like, we're fed up with this. Where are you going to go? They're not going to push us any further. And now we're in New York State, so we have a new mask mandate starting tomorrow. Indoor, you have to wear a mask. All the business owners that I say go, not me.
Oh, are they saying that?
A local county just said that we're not going to enforce that.
Yeah,
Rensselaer County said they're not.
So we're getting feedback that they're not.
Oh, yeah. Even the local governments.
No way.
Oh, really? Good.
Yep.
Because they realize it's going to destroy things.
So is it at the county level that they're saying this, or is it store owners themselves? Or?
Store owners can do whatever they want. That's
you know what's interesting about this New York mandate that I don't think anybody's going to pay attention. Well, a lot of people will pay attention to it, but a lot of people won't. But anyway, what it was said was you have to wear a mask indoors unless the business has a vaccine mandate in place. What does that mean? Does that mean that the business has to check vaccine cards?
Which is illegal.
Yeah.
Or does it just mean that they can put a sign up that says masks required for unvaccinated people?
I see those everywhere.
They're everywhere now.
If that's the extent of it,
they can't afford to have people checking yours. Now, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Can't anyway. HIPAA law states you do not have to show anything about your medical history.
And there's been a lot of debate about that, so I don't know. I'm not sure what the actual law is on that, but there's
Do you
lots
have to
of
show a
debate.
vaccine card for chickenpox?
I would look.
Measles? Mumps?
I wouldn't show it anyway, so it's not.
Well, I saw someone yesterday who had a picture of a card that they photoshopped.
Oh.
Because they were going someplace where they were going to have to.
I imagine a lot of people doing that. Here's the thing. They created this stupid game.
Right. Again, but going back to what you said in the monologue and what I say all the time, they don't understand human motivation.
Right.
They think they're going to do whatever they want, and everybody's just going to go along with it.
Right.
And then when it doesn't, I don't think they know how to react. This is the big weakness that they have, is that I don't think they know how to react. And
you know what the thing about Governor Hochul is that drives a lot of people crazy? She wasn't even elected. Not one vote. Nobody voted for her. She was put in by Cuomo, right? She was
lieutenant governor.
Yeah, she's next in line. That's what lieutenant governor.
But she wasn't voted for, was she?
No, but she claims that she's going to win the next election, which she probably will.
So the funny thing is, she says she's going up for re-election, but she was never elected in the first place.
Bah.
So I don't know.
Stupid.
Yeah. So.
This is where we live.
Yeah.
As opposed to I talk to people in Florida all the time, and they're just like,
well,
what are you, nuts?
Florida's awesome, and just so people know, New York has a lot of great geographic, places and mountains. We got the mountains up here. We got the Adirondack Mountains, which are fantastic. But overall, New York sucks when it comes to laws and rules and regulations.
New York City is why we have problems.
Oh, that's the big thing.
New York City as a whole, that's like the armpit of the world right now.
I think we should just let them be their own thing. There's enough people there. Just go away.
And it's sad because in New York, what do we have? About 20 million. I think we have about 20 million people in New York. Half of them, or just about half,
11 million live in the city.
More than live downstate in the city or below.
And then, so you got to figure the majority of them people are voting Democrat. Why? I don't understand. They just don't seem to learn from their mistakes. I was looking at that light. They don't seem to learn from their mistakes. But then the other half is upstate. And upstate, you have a mix of liberal and conservative. Right. So it's hard for us conservatives to win in New York. But that's what
because the welfare recipients don't want their stuff taken away. Why would you vote for a conservative who's going to take your free stuff away?
Well, plus we have...
When you can vote for the Democrat who treats you like trash but gives you that free money.
Right, and even entwined in the government aspect of that, we have one of the largest state workforces in the country. I mean, between just school districts and all kinds of things like that, there's just an amazing amount of people that are working for the state government. So you can't expect them to turn against the state government, right?
It's like the mayor of Albany. People are like, how did she get voted in? Ugh. And not the guy that was running against her who promised all this great stuff for people. Because they don't want their free money to go dry. You're not understanding it. Yeah. I can't get that through to people's heads. You don't understand it. People want their money. If a Republican comes in, he's going to change it. He's going to take it away. He's going to save the city money.
Right.
And she didn't win by much. She only had 60% of the votes.
And there wasn't even that many votes, right?
Right.
I mean, it's the people that it's crazy. Anyway.
Well, and another thing that what happened, well, Anthony's talking about the welfare stuff. And once you make people dependent on welfare, you got them for life. And right now, we were talking the other day about how many generations of welfare recipients we have. Now, we probably have people growing up now or being born now that are in New York that are probably fourth or fifth generation of welfare recipient. Right. So they don't learn, these people who live on welfare like this come from families on welfare. They don't learn how to be productive in society and get a job,
right,
and produce some sort of product or service for the community. They learn and they're taught how to game the system, how to work the system. That's their job.
Right.
And it's a pathetic thing.
Why would you vote that system out for someone who's going to take that system away?
Right?
Right. It's
makes sense.
The city hasn't been great since Mayor Jennings.
That's like getting people in Congress to vote for term limits. Okay, so let me move on. But what I wanted to talk about here was how some of the Democrat policies conflict with each other. Like they can have all these different policies, whether it's a policy on racism or gender stuff or climate nonsense. So the one conflicting issue that's going on right now is the left claims to be for women's rights, right? The uplifting of women. But they're also hung up in the transgender stuff. So these are two very conflicting things because now they have to support women, right?
Yep.
And they have to support
trans people.
What happens when a trans decides they want to start pretending to be a woman in sports?
We see.
Well,
records are broken.
There's a swimmer right now.
Right, she broke all the records.
And
it's a sticky wicket.
And I think Danny's got a picture of this guy who's swimming
as a woman.
Swimming
as a woman.
And beating all the records. So, it's like, so I was thinking of some other conflicting ones. So they got the trans athletes conflicting with women's rights. What about the right to choose when it comes to killing their babies, but you don't have the right to choose? Right. John just did a visual there with the
And you know what's interesting about that is that for some reason, so many people that I talk to are equating sticking a needle in somebody's arm with all kinds of other things that you have choice about. Wearing your seatbelt. Oh, really? I go, is that the same thing as somebody sticking a needle in my arm? Because
putting something in my bloodstream?
Right. And I posted a thing the other day about the Nuremberg codes where they say you can't inject anybody with anything without their permission, and you can't coerce them to do that. That's basically illegal experimentation. You know what I mean? You can't do that stuff.
Well, that's why they're not going to release the findings for 55 years. Because by then you'll be dead, and the new generation will be reading about it and saying, Uncle Billy died of that. That's kind of weird.
There's just so many that with that issue that
right
don't
there
get
should
the
scare
idea
you.
of personal choice. Like I make personal health choices for my own personal health reasons, not because of some outside reason. That doesn't make any sense. I would never recommend somebody else. Well, I think you should do this, therefore. But my doctor says, heck with your doctor. You should do what everybody else is doing because that's the right thing to do.
I mean, the whole vaccine thing has reached it's reached this point where the people who are for vaccines, they have made their position clear.
Right.
You can't tell even though the vaccine doesn't work, even though they're still pumping out boosters, even though there are side effects, very clear side effects, myocarditis and all sorts of other things, autoimmune stuff. So you can tell them, the vaccine doesn't work and it's got side effects, and people who've had the virus, why in the world would they get it? But they don't want to see that logic for some reason. They don't want to see it because they were so caught up. And I have friends who have the vaccine and they feel the same way, and I don't condemn them for it. But the thing is, once you commit to something, I always say this, like once you commit and you paint a picket sign that says, whatever it says, no guns. This is the typical, no gun. And you go out into the street and you show that sign and you get on camera and you make your statement, you've committed to that cause. Right. And it's not within our human nature to be likely to go against that and say, whoops, I screwed up.
Take it a stand.
Right.
Picking that hill to die on over there.
Exactly. So another thing is women's rights versus radical Islam. You see the left constantly supporting and defending radical Islam. Oh, well, it was, even Obama wouldn't let anybody say radical Islam. It was a term they didn't want to use. But yet they kill women. And women
gays.
And gays. So this is another thing that conflicts with the Democrats' policies.
I think it's almost like, enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Because, radical Muslim people, I would assume, are probably not in favor of conservative politicians and policies. So therefore, they're on the side of the left as far as the narrative goes, to some degree. Not again, if you dig in too deep, you find all these conflicts, like you're saying. I don't know how they justify that. I don't know how they...
I don't know how they justify it. And what happens is there's never a chance where you can talk to somebody and say, what do you think about this? Well, I believe in women's rights. Well, what do you think about Islam? Well, I support radical Islam. They have their reasons for doing what they do. Well, they kill women, though, and gay people. Right. So how do you put the two together? And we never really have the opportunity. Okay, here we go. John's got something.
What do you think about that? But really, they don't ask themselves that question.
You're saying ask yourself.
Right.
I get it.
Just ask yourself some questions.
That's what the mirror's for.
It's hard to start. Once you get going, it's pretty easy.
Right.
Then you realize you're just a total mess and you might as well just stay home.
Well, and another thing is, we have been just like subjected to this onslaught of climate nonsense, where it started off as, what did it start off? Well, it wasn't. It was
Gore started it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it started everybody
Where
was
is he
going to
now?
starve because we couldn't grow enough food
Where is
back
Gore
in the
now?
70s. Then you're going to have global cooling. And then
global cooling, global warming.
The thing of it is with all
ozone. What about the ozone? What happened to the ozone?
Well, the ozone was fixable because that was just that was actually something that was
But I
fixable.
thought hairspray and everything.
Well, it did because we outlawed all the chlorofluorocarbons.
So now all of a sudden the ozone.
Well, you in the 80s caused that problem with your Aquanet silly hair.
All the hair bands.
Yeah.
But the other thing
did what we could.
It's the policies that are what is killing everything, because people buy into this stuff with like the vaccines, with no real data, with speculation about everything out into the future, which you can never get right anyway. And then people make policies, and then people end up paying for it. What? I don't even want to get into the whole climate policy thing at this point, because that's so.
Well, the point I was trying to make was that it conflicts. They have, so now the electric car thing. So electric cars, when I see an electric car, I like the idea that technology can move in that direction and stuff, and that's kind of cool. And I actually liked the Chevy Volt when it first came out. That's kind of cool. But and some of the Teslas are really cool looking. But the idea behind it for the left is not about how cool the car is. It's about this, I'm saving the planet. I'm moral.
Well,
moral
that's the whole signaling thing. That's everything. I just had many, but the biggest thing for me is that, because all this is climate related, technically, right? The electric cars and everything else. If they took all the money they used to subsidize electric car sales and put that into research on new energy sources, we'd be way ahead of the game, and it'd be doing something useful.
But it's not, because it's not about that.
Not about that. No, it's just about how everybody looks and feels and what they say.
That's like closing the pipeline and then wanting tens of thousands of truckers to move oil all around the country.
Yeah.
So the pipeline is going to save you the emissions problem of all the diesel fumes of all these trucks that are transporting it across the country, when a pipeline can bring tens of millions of gallons from Canada to Texas with no trucks at all.
No trouble. Yeah.
No traffic.
Well, let's shut that down, big dummy.
Yeah, I know.
Sleepy.
And we have, if I remember correctly, we have 100 years supply of oil right here in our country.
There's plenty of oil. Yeah. There's plenty of fossil fuels. The thing, again, my perspective on that is, do research, find new sources of energy, so 30 years from now, things might be able to change. But to take technologies that are inefficient and not developed enough to be scaled and keep pushing them on people, like wind and solar and stuff, that stuff's all fine as supplemental stuff where it works, but it's not going to take over the world. So until we have technology that can take over the world and do the job, don't hinder the prosperity of everybody around the world. People don't. What happens when the price of gas doubles? Does that all that doubles? Everything we're in it right now, right? With inflation nonsense, everything's up because of that. But that doesn't seem to matter sometimes to the left. Like, well, that's part of the. No, it's not part of. You're taking money out of people's pockets.
Because I think a lot of people who are on the left who don't really pay attention, who are just the average people, the people that we encounter all the time, they don't get it. They don't understand. This is all politically driven. They buy into the narrative, and they believe in the narratives. And it gets to another point that I wanted to make, and I think we have a clip on this one. They're constantly, the left is constantly bombarded with political propaganda. They don't even have comedy anymore. It's all political propaganda. And when you go to some of these left-wing websites, like I do this to research the anti-gun lobbying groups and stuff. Anytime I go to a left-wing website, you can't. It's like pop-ups constantly. You're constantly like trying to get rid of these pop-ups so you can get to the article or get to the content that you're looking at. It's not like that on conservative sites. And we do have pop-ups and banners and things, but you're bombarded when you're on left-wing stuff. Yep. So left-wingers are, and they don't realize this, but they're being used as propaganda. I don't know, what would you call it? Outlets or whatever.
Yeah, they're minions,
I mean,
they're being taxed. They're the ones that are paying for all this, along with all the rest of us, and they seem to not care. Like, I don't care if you're left wing or right wing. If your heating costs double this winter, is that not going to matter to you? Like, what if you're a retired person on a fixed income? What do you do? Yeah. Put a sweater on?
And who's making all the money?
Well,
the rich. They're profiting. I think Elon Musk just sold $12 billion in stocks.
Right.
He's going to make 3 times that back when the market. But if you're in the market, you're going to lose. If you have stocks and it crashes, you lose. He doesn't.
I have been, actually.
Right, but he doesn't. That's the thing.
But that's never going to change. I mean, the rich people are always going to get richer. That's
Well, what I wanted to do is I wanted to play this clip because it's a Stephen Colbert clip, and
boy,
yeah,
He's my favorite.
And
I haven't seen him in a long time.
Well, it's just an example of how these people who liberals who go to these shows or whatever, and they want to be entertained, they can't even be entertained anymore because the political left is constantly feeding them the narrative that they want them to have. Here's an example.
Now, John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, who has been seen as a potential swing vote in this case and is desperate not to make the Supreme Court a purely partisan institution, is trying to find a way to justify Mississippi's 15-week ban without overturning precedent, which is 24 weeks.
And why would 15 weeks be an inappropriate line? So viability, it seems to me, doesn't have anything to do with choice. But if it really is an issue about choice, why is 15 weeks not enough time?
So it was 24. Now maybe 15. Is Roberts Chief Justice or Chief Auctioneer? I hear 24 weeks, 24, 20, got 15, 15, 15, can I get 6? A 6. I hear 6 from Texas.
So
going once, going twice. Sold to the glint in your boyfriend's eye.
He gets right back to it.
So Roberts seemed a little muddled about the timeline there. Clarence Thomas seemed confused about what they were talking about at all.
I understand we're talking about abortion here, but what is confusing is that if we were talking about the Second Amendment, I know exactly what we're talking about. If we're talking about the Fourth Amendment, I know what we're talking about because it's written, it's there. What specifically is the right here that we're talking about?
He knows it's his job to interpret the Constitution, right? I'd like to see Clarence Thomas in a lit class. If we're talking about Animal Farm, I understand we're talking about a bunch of animals.
But the point I'm trying to make is a little bit of humor when he makes the little jokes in between. That's just to keep them satisfied because what they're really doing here is just pushing politics on these people.
Right, and they demonize the people like Clarence Thomas. He seems confused. Yeah. He's admitting that he's confused because it doesn't
make any sense. Right.
It's not good law. That's what he's saying.
They got to make a decision on something they don't know about and what they think is right. But he's making a joke about women having an abortion.
Yeah,
which is it's not funny. I mean,
that's not right.
And people watch this garbage. I don't understand it.
And The View.
They do because, they can't watch conservative stuff because they've been taught not to. They've been taught that it's bad, that conservatives are bad people. And why would you want to be associated with bad people?
Right, and nothing is ever given to them to have them look deeper into that, right? Yeah. Did you hear Kyle Rittenhouse's interview with Crowder the other day? Oh, my God.
I don't know if I heard that.
He was on for like an hour and a half.
I heard he said F LeBron.
Yeah, well, he was very mature sounding. It was cool.
He's beyond his years.
He likes girls with a little bit of meat on their bones.
Is that what he said?
Yes, in case you're wondering.
Anyway, so the point to that is, what will it take for liberals to start to see that they're really being used?
It'll never happen.
It takes too much effort for them to partake in anything outside of their own bubble, right? Because it instantly hits them as being wrong. So why would you keep going towards something that makes you feel bad about yourself?
But they go to these comedy shows and they watch these so-called comedy shows when really what it is, it's a big political statement with maybe little bits of comedy thrown in there just to keep them happy. Right. I can watch that for 5, and there's more to that clip. I can watch that clip for, we'll watch for 5 minutes or whatever and realize what they're doing here. Right. They're using political propaganda to indoctrinate.
And these are the same people that want to.
It reminds me of that movie, They Live. You ever see that?
Yeah.
It's exactly what they do.
Yeah. Is that with Rowdy Roddy?
When you put the glasses on, you see all the political garbage.
Right. You see all
taking them off, everybody's normal. That's what Colbert reminds me of.
It's like everybody's hypnotized.
Everybody's
And the people
hypnotized
don't
by the garbage that's being fed to them all the time.
And they don't realize it.
The thing of it is though, they're really good at making the garbage satisfying to their narrative.
That's why the jokes are put in,
They
intertwined.
feel so good about, oh, ha, 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 yeah.
Right?
Oh, but
Like,
back
I
to
don't
the serious stuff.
Oh, it's so funny. So, we got a couple more minutes. I want to talk about Jussie just for a bit.
Mr. Mullet?
Juicy.
So, again, the left-wing media is at it again with the whole Jussie Smollett thing. And I want to play a clip of all the news broadcasters talking about how horrible of a thing that happened to Jussie being attacked like that. So go ahead, let's play that clip and we'll
Before
talk
the
about
facts
that.
come out.
Yes.
Exactly.
This is about coming to the aid of another brother that has tasted the brutality of hatred, racism, and bigotry.
In this situation, hate won't win. It will not.
You didn't deserve, nor anybody deserves, to have a noose put around your neck.
He had bleach poured onto him.
Stop it.
This needs to stop.
Oh, she gets crazy.
He will forgive these people for what they did. But he won't, and we cannot forget their actions.
And hopefully this just opens up people's eyes. It's just what needs to stop, man. God damn, why are we going backwards?
There are a lot of evidence of violent incidents that happen at these MAGA rallies.
This is essentially terrorism, and you wonder like how deep it goes. These hateful groups that get together, or maybe hopefully it's just two people, but that's what I'm afraid of. That it's going to go a lot deeper.
Thank you for calling it terrorism because the media does not.
It is.
It is. It's domestic terrorism.
Absolutely.
But I don't like that it's being put out there in the media that this is a possible hate crime. I think that even sows a seed that makes people feel like, well, is he making this up? Well, what is this about? I don't like that. Like, don't put that in people's minds. This man was hurt. He was injured and he needs justice.
It's the horrific details, behind the premeditation for this attack. They didn't find a rope, they brought a rope. I mean,
we pretty much thought racism had come a long way when President Barack Obama was president.
But by the way, it had.
Yeah, it had, but
we're going backwards
then the
again.
hatred. So if you really want to get into that, you want to build a wall for somebody, build a wall for some of the white nationalists and supremacists.
We have a media that's saying it's a debate whether or not what just happened to Jussie Smollett is a hate crime. It's absurd.
It was a hate
This
crime.
isn't a debate.
He did it.
There have been people in the government now who have made it okay for people to announce these hateful feelings that they have towards other people.
We really need to find these
one of the
people.
things you and I were discussing earlier is
First Amendment?
clearly anyone who lives with this kind of hate is not terribly bright.
All right. So the only problem is that Jussie took every one of these idiots for a ride.
Right. The essence of that is there was a crime committed and the criminal was convicted. End of story.
They were so willing to jump on board with this so-called racist thing.
Yep.
And here's the thing, we got to wrap it up, but here's the last point I want to make with this. There's no racism. White people aren't racist toward black people. Black people aren't racist toward white people at any level that we really need to be concerned with. The real racism, the real racism is coming from the political left.
Yeah.
They're the ones perpetuating, and they always have.
Right there.
And there we go. All right, we'll take a short. Rob Morse is coming right after the break, so stick around for Rob Morse.
Discover Simul TV, a new streaming platform with over 100 channels of live stream content and video-on-demand movies. Family-friendly shows to classic and blockbuster movies. Subscribe today and get so much for so little. Stream in harmony on simultv.com.
The media and politicians create terms like gun violence and ghost gun and assault weapon to change the narrative around guns in America. The entire anti-gun fear campaign is built on the reactive emotions of people who don't know any better. and the media seeks their support for gun restrictions. In Good Gun, Bad Guy, I give you the behind-the-scenes look into the mind of the anti-gun radical, because before we can defeat them, we need to understand their tactics. Good Gun, Bad Guy 2 exposes the media strategies used to create a perpetual state of irrational gun fear and hatred toward gun owners. Good Gun, Bad Guy 3 reveals the political motives behind the gun grab, why the left wants an unarmed population, and what we can do to thwart their efforts. The anti-Second Amendment radicals started this evil game. Good Gun, Bad Guy is the rule book they hoped you would never see. Go to goodgunbadguy.com to get your copy or purchase the entire series. By now you've heard me talk about MyPillow and how it literally changed my life. They won't go flat. You can wash and dry them as many times as you want, and they maintain their shape. They're made in the USA, and for a limited time, Mike is offering his premium MyPillows for his lowest price ever. You can get a queen-size premium MyPillow for just $29.98, regularly $69.98. It's a $40 savings. And kings are only $5 more. So go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use the promo code RAM, like RAM. You'll also get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream Sheets, the MyPillow mattress topper, MyPillow towel sets. You can also call 800-867-0416. That's 800-867-0416. But don't forget to use that promo code RAM.
On January 6, 2021, I went to Washington, D.C., along with multitudes of other Americans because we believed that the election was stolen. What they show you on the media doesn't tell half the story.
The FBI, not with your hands up.
I step out, I have red dots all over my chest.
I'm really scared. They handcuffed me.
They handcuffed you?
Yes.
The 6th was all deception.
This is psychological warfare.
One voice has millions.
All right, so as promised, Rob Morse is with us. Now, Rob Morse is a national Second Amendment advocate, happens to run in some of the same circles that I run in, which is really cool. Rob is probably one of the most articulate and well, frankly, one of the smartest guys in the Second Amendment world. He writes for AmmoLand, and so we both write for AmmoLand, so that's kind of cool. So I want to introduce you to Rob Morse. Rob, how are you?
I'm great. Dan, it's a pleasure to be with you again. It's odd that we both run in circles, but yeah, I'll admit to that.
We run in
It's a
circles.
Three Dog Night song, I think.
Yeah, there we go. The world goes, the Second Amendment world goes round in, and I've been accused of being smart. Have you guys met Evan Nappen?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, he's a lawyer out of New Jersey, now up in New Hampshire, I believe. There are a lot of lawyers in the Second Amendment arena. They intimidate the daylights out of me. They are so smart. God bless. I'm glad they're on our side.
You know, and remembering everything, because there's so many stats and stuff like that. Just remembering all this stuff is tough. But you wrote an article called "Now We Know There Are Armed Good Guys on Our Streets." And this was a really cool article in AmmoLand. People can check it out. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the article because you did some research, and it kind of, you know, it's probably going to scare the anti-gun crowd knowing that there are all these, you know, armed, you know, citizens, but it's really cool stuff. And you and I know that where there are more armed citizens, there's less crime, you know, regardless of whether they want to believe it or not. But anyway, so you wrote this article. Let me ask you I'm going to start asking you some questions about the article. In the article, you say, what surprised me is that citizens who have their carry permits were several times more law-abiding than even the police. And I thought that was really interesting. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. Everybody knows that the police, for one, they know all the laws. They're careful not to break them. On the other hand, every time they so much as come close to bending a rule, they get charged. So they definitely face a two-edged sword. When we look, some states deliberately said, we're not sure we really trust people who concealed carry. You know, if they have a bunch of speeding tickets or a DWI, we want to know. And if they've got domestic abuse or public, you know, whatever the charges might be, in many states, you can get your permit pulled. So we have that. That was probably advanced by an anti-gun politician, but what it gave us were statewide statistics. So we looked at states like Florida, Texas, Michigan, and what we found was amazing. People with their permits are wildly nonviolent and law-abiding. When we look at sociological data, we want to find the most law-abiding group we can find. Take the whole world. Married Japanese men. Follow the law, don't get in fights. And there are more of them than there are of concealed carriers. But depending on the year, the statistics overlap. We look like a bunch of Boy Scouts.
Well, you know, it's true, because I know, being a concealed carrier, that we're hyper vigilant to not being involved in anything that might be, you know, crime related, and that includes just speeding in your car. You know, we're less likely to speed. Although I have a very fast car, I still try to make sure that I don't get, well, at least I make sure that I don't get pulled over. But
right, there you go.
But anyway, so, but that's true, because we're not, you're just hyper vigilant to that stuff. And right. I think, what are your thoughts on that?
We know that if we get into an altercation, there's a gun there. We may not present it,
yeah,
but it's in the situation. So someone wants a fight, and we're all, man, I'm so sorry. Whatever you say, I'll back away. Yeah. I'll walk out. To the point where, you know, somebody wants a fight and you just leave your table, your family, you walk out, you leave through the kitchen if you have to. Because if somebody presses you, it could end really badly for them. And if you can walk away and save their life, okay, you'll come back tomorrow and pay the bill. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just so true that when you carry a gun in public, you understand what your capabilities are. And now you have capabilities, and you're able in ways that you weren't before. And with that comes a huge responsibility. And I think that, you know, right, concealed carriers understand that. Gun owners in general understand that. But so you did this, so you did some research in this article, which was really cool. You say that there was a survey, a national firearms survey, that was over 50,000 people answered the survey, right, and this is how you came up with some of this information. One thing you said was 2 of the largest anti-gun states, California and my state of New York, also had some of the most firearm owners compared to other states. That's pretty interesting, and I don't think the blue state liberals will. I don't think they realize just how many guns are around them.
Dan, I was thinking of it, and we're recording this in early December, hunting season in many states. You've seen the meme that says the biggest standing army in the world is
hunters.
The hunters, typically they use a state like Pennsylvania, right? Maybe Michigan, maybe. Forget it. The gun owners in New York are 30% larger than the gun owners in Pennsylvania. The gun owners in California are probably 50% larger.
Now, let me ask you, Rob, is that per capita, or is that statewide overall?
No. Statewide overall.
Okay, so some states might be bigger or smaller in population.
Clearly, that's what we're seeing. And when we look at the number of gun owners in different states, you and I have this perception. Oh, and okay. You're an exception because you're in New York. You know there are gun owners there. The rest of the United States sees how badly you're treated and assumes there aren't many gun owners in New York or California. And we're wrong. Gun owners are everywhere, even where we're abused.
Well, I use the average of 5% of the any state population is a concealed carrier. It's actually much higher than that. I know from what I remember, Alabama, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but if Alabama was like 11%, so you could have anywhere from 1 in 10 to 1 in 20 people in the grocery store carrying a gun. I mean, does that make sense, or is that accurate?
That's what I said until I read this report.
Okay.
And I've got good news for both of us. You and I could get data on who had a permit. And then we go, okay, but how often do they carry? And then there are constitutional carry states. Right. This survey, which is by an order of magnitude one of the largest we've ever seen, asked people, how often do you carry? Do you carry? How often?
Yeah.
Sometimes, all the time. Okay, now what you and I, if we put on our accounting hats, what we'd like is, how many % of the time did you carry in the last year? They didn't ask that.
Never
we don't
get
get
that, right.
data.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got relative frequency. I broke that down into a table. Looked across the United States, it looks like about 1 out of a dozen, roughly 8%, of us actually carry. Now that even includes states where it's difficult to carry, like New York and California.
Yeah.
So if we rolled those out, it's probably higher, like 1 out of 10. But let's take that, because there are 10 million people who live in shall issue counties in California, just like you being upstate. Not all of New York is represented by Manhattan. Come on.
Right.
Don't be so provincial. So yeah, you're at the drugstore. There are a dozen people in the shop. One of them probably has a firearm. You're at the restaurant, 2-3 dozen people. You're at church. You're waiting in a line at a movie theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
1 out of a dozen is a good number.
Yeah.
Obviously, and you mentioned it, higher in Alabama. I think there the concealed carry rate is close to a third.
Okay.
Now this is one of those bar bets just to the south of you, upstate Pennsylvania. Some sheriffs said, I will be there as soon as you call me, but you know what our roads are like, you know what our weather's like. So until the snowplow gets to your house, I can't get there with an officer. Please take care of yourself.
Right.
You can get a permit in my county, and almost half of the adults did. Half.
Oh, wow. Half of Pennsylvania residents.
No, half of the adults in some Pennsylvania counties. But all of a sudden you go, wow, where it's welcome, where it's accepted, where it's encouraged, a lot of us want to carry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and look at gun purchases. Well, last year in 2020, I think we had the highest. We had twice as many NICS background checks last year because people were, and I think it was 46% of those purchases were newbies, first timers. And
right.
So you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? Well, it tells you that half of the new purchases are people who've never owned a gun before. It tells you that we're converting people. And why is that? Are they getting scared of the riots? I think those 2020 riots, all those left-wing riots in those cities across the country, I think that really had a lot to do with it. People said, wait a minute, you know, I might support the Democrats on whatever, but I can't risk my life, so I'm going to get a gun. And I think a lot of people said that.
Well, let's take it one step further, and those numbers understate what the human impulse was. A lot of us said, wow, the police are locked down by COVID. If I call, they'll take a report. That doesn't keep my family safe.
Right.
That doesn't keep my coworkers safe at my business. Okay, I'm going to get a gun. I'm going to have to learn to stay safe until they arrive. And then in many states, and you've reported on the lawsuits that followed, a lot of anti-gun bureaucrats, often led by their political overlords, said, oh, due to COVID, we won't process your applications.
Right.
Wow. Even more of us would have gotten firearms, would have gotten carry permits if we could have.
Wow. COVID stops bullets, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, the thing of it is, you know, Rob, I mean, all these things for me, because I'm always going back to the personal liberty perspective on all this stuff. And it's like the idea, if you really want to prevent crime, the best way is for me to prevent a crime happening against me.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. It's always one person doing something to someone else. So if you can nip that, that would be the most efficient way to stop at least me getting hurt, which is what I care about before I care. Not that I don't want you to get hurt either, but
right. And we like to protect the good people around us as well. But I mean, first and foremost, if you can't save your own life, you're useless to everybody else. So. Right. I mean, that's the same concept as when you're on an airplane. They say take the oxygen first and then give it to your kid so you can preserve your life. And that's that's always kind of the attitude that I take. You know, I want to make sure that I can protect my family. That's why I carry a gun. You know, if I'm dead, I'm not going to be able to protect them. So that's
you know, there is an interesting number that I haven't published yet, and let me tease you guys with it to hear how it strikes you. When we look at the number of people who carry, okay, 1 out of a dozen, we look at the number of people in the United States who own a firearm, about 1/3 of adults. And then when we ask them, about 1/3 of gun owners, so about 1/9 of the adults said, yeah, you know, that firearm was really useful. The time there was a break-in, I shouted, I'm armed, leave. Yeah. And the intruder did. So about 11% of us have experience of the gun being a real significant change in the way history unfolded. Okay, if 1 out of a dozen of us are carrying, and only 5, and criminals have about a 5% of chance of being caught at any one time. So they're going to commit some 20 robberies before the police finally get a hold of them. These guys run into us on a pretty regular basis.
Ah, I see. I see your point, and that is interesting. So we're more of a. If they realized it, we would be more of a deterrent than they might actually realize.
Well, I think we are that deterrent, Dan. And criminals do bad things for a living. They look for easy marks, and they go, nice shirt. It's not tucked in. No, doesn't. He could be carrying. I think I'm going to leave that one alone.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
I think that calculus is being done.
And you say in your article here, more than 80% of armed defense incidents ended without the defender having to fire a shot.
You and I had heard anecdotal evidence like that. They asked in this survey, did you have to fire the gun? And it was 82% said, nope. When they saw it, when I shouted that I was armed, when I threatened, don't come any closer, or that was sufficient.
And I'm sure you're familiar with the armed resistance report from Gary Kleck, the Florida criminologist, that talks about 2.5 million defensive gun uses per year in America. One interesting thing that I found in that, and actually Eric Pratt and I were talking about it, and Eric said, did you know that 46 there was in that study was 46% of those defensive gun uses were by women? And I said, I mean, the study was huge. I mean, I didn't necessarily read the entire every word, but I said, you know, let me go back through and look. And sure as hell, I forget what page it was, but there was a part where they talked about 46% being women. Nobody talks about this stuff, but it's true. And, you know, to think that, you know, there's some people who might be anti-gun and maybe on the political left don't want women to carry a gun. To me, that goes against the whole thing of empowering women. I thought that's what we wanted to do. What are your thoughts there?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Part of me thinks that's a lack of information, a lack of perspective, and as our friends say, education, not legislation. And part of me that looks at political manipulation sees it as more sinister. A friend of ours, Kathy Jackson, wonderful firearm instructor, said, I wonder if the reason that politicians have such a vehement dislike of the AR-15 is that it's a girl's gun. It's not even a full hunting caliber. It's lightweight. Yeah. It's adjustable, mild recoil.
Yeah.
It's a girl's gun. After you get your friends, you let them shoot your 22s for a while. Maybe you finally put a sight on it, and now they're really having fun, and you say, okay, you ready? Now you're going to try my AR. Yeah. This is the opposite of giving them some big rifle that knocks them on their backside. Sure. This is, wow, that's fun. Do you have some more ammunition?
Right.
And I wonder if that's why politicians dislike us having it. They're afraid we'll find out how much we like it.
That's a good point. As a matter of fact, there was a video of a guy, a full-grown man, shooting an AR-15 and being completely repulsed by it. I don't know if you ever saw that video. He was scared.
Yes.
He was almost in tears. He said the recoil and the smell of the gunpowder, and there was this whole thing. He made this whole big, scenario out of shooting an AR-15, and I think it was part of a propaganda play.
Right. It
because
was.
Then there was contradicting video of a little girl. How old was she? 7, 8, I don't know, maybe 12 years old, whatever. Young girl shooting it with a smile on her face and having a complete blast. So you're right. It doesn't have a strong recoil. It's a fun gun to shoot. And if you shoot the 22 AR, that thing is like a BB gun. It's even
right. That's
but it's funny because we sometimes we'll go out and we'll bring the 22 and
223
and the 223, yeah, and or the 5.56. My buddy has a 223 that we usually bring out, and but shooting both of them is fun, and they're both easy, and anybody can shoot these guns. So that's you may have a good point there. That's what they don't want.
Right? Isn't that interesting, Dan? And you've covered it. Thank you, both of you, all three of you, for touching on it. Guns are demonized if, well, they're too big, or they're too small, or they're too loud, or they're too quiet, or if they're too easy to shoot, like an AR. Well, are you getting the impression that I'm getting that no gun is acceptable?
Exactly. Yeah, well, if they could. Well, and you even heard recently Joe Biden say these semi-automatic rifles and these handguns, and he made this comment, including handguns, how this is unacceptable. We can't have this anymore, as if we're going to ban handguns and rifles and everything. And I think that's what they would love to do. I think it's a big political move that they really just want an unarmed population, because an unarmed population is easier to manage and control. And so we get into the politics behind the gun grab. And this is the stuff that you and I are always involved in.
Right.
Where's it going with, we got about 3 minutes left, Rob. We're running.
Okay.
This went by really quick. But where do you see us here in the next year with some of these laws coming down, and are we doing okay?
Well, it's very a mixed bag. I think the Democrats, the anti-gun politicians, are going to get thumped this coming November, so they've got to put in their gun grab early if they think it has any chance. That will depend on public opinion and how vocal you and I are. There's both sides of this pendulum, though, Dan. We're going to see a lot of states come back with constitutional carry. We're going to hopefully have a Supreme Court decision that says, yeah, that Second Amendment, that right of self-defense that's recognized in our founding documents, that's not a suggestion.
Right.
We mean it.
You're talking about the New York City case, yes.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. And you're right. We have 21 constitutional carry states, and we have a couple states right now that are looking at it. I think Alabama is one of them, and Pennsylvania, right? Is Pennsylvania one of them?
Well, Pennsylvania passed it. The governor vetoed it.
Okay.
Louisiana passed it. The governor vetoed it. Okay. Florida is considering it.
Florida.
And
yes. It's Florida and Alabama that we're watching right now.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So
because as
usual, it's going to be a mixed scorecard.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Next year is going to be a mixed scorecard.
Yeah.
We've got things on both sides in play.
Yep. That's true. It's great to watch as we move forward in preserving our rights and getting our rights back. That's the fun stuff that I like to see. I like to see us gaining ground. Rob, we got to wrap up. So where can people find you? What are you working on, and what's your kind of call to action?
I produce self-defense gun stories. I co-host on the Polite Society podcast. My writing is at slowfacts.wordpress.com. From there, the gun stuff goes over to AmmoLand. The politics goes to Clash Daily and the Daily Surge. And I don't know what I'm going to be writing about next week. I've got 2 or 3 articles. Depending on when this video comes out, I may be on to new stuff. Like you, Dan, I just watch the news and get curious and dig into it and want to find out more.
Yeah, sometimes this stuff writes itself. But Rob, thanks so much. We really appreciate it. And you're a good friend, a good guy to know, and keep up the great work. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching The Loaded Mic on YouTube, Rumble, Simul TV, and Right America Media. You can also catch the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, whatever your favorite podcast app is, we're there. I'm Dan Wass, and the Second Amendment is not a privilege, it's your right.